Hello everybody, Renaissance Craft here. Today we're going to be learning how to draw two-dimensional shapes into 3D. So first what we have here is just a cone, or basically a rectangle made to look like a cylinder. So your very basics to do this, I'm going to do it right below, is if you just draw a rectangle, you can then go ahead and if you just round this off here, bring that around and round this off up here, and once again you can add perspective, which I'll go over in another video. But if you think of this as the middle, as kind of the horizon line, and this is where your circle would be flat, so there would be no turn. Now if you want to add just a slight bend, it will create that, and then from there you can add that slight bend and wrap it around, and then add another just more exaggerated bend, another exaggerated, another, until you get down below and you have the big one. So if you wrap that around, and vice versa. You're just going to go the other way until you get more and more until you get this one. So that way, now you have a very basic, once just rectangle turned into something that looks semi 3D. You know, the nicer you do this, the more measurements you do, the more accurate you do things, the more realistic it will feel. It won't necessarily be more realistic due to the fact that a lot of objects are not exactly how they appear, or they're not perfectly symmetrical or have perfect symmetry. But this gives you the idea of how to create just a basic rectangle into a three-dimensional cylinder. As you see here, the red would be the front and the blue line would be the back, to kind of give you that feel of going fully around and how that would look. Now I've added other objects here as well. This is a non-distinct form where you would have harsh lines here going into here, and it's still just very basic, you know, lines, and you're just creating something on that so you can get that feel of dimension. It's not necessarily you know, perfect, and you know, just like a lot of objects, it's not, you know, symmetrical all the way around, but as you can see, it goes from harsh lines and then I start adding curved lines, and it gives that feel of something going from different surfaces, different areas. Here you have a very basic arm starting with just 3 circles and lines, and then creating an outline based off of the motion of that, and then creating the 3 dimensions within that. And now, you know, with anything else, if you have a line and a line, and then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to draw this, the elbow goes there, that goes there, this comes here, bicep, you know, shoulder, and then you can say, okay, this, you know, he's real muscular, so we're going to create, you know, more of a, you know, pattern here of what he might feel like. So this can start to create, just without doing anything, basically how an arm would actually feel or look. So when you start doing shading, you can make it feel more realistic, or you start adding certain things, and all of a sudden, you know, you have a tricep, you have, you know, the bicep, you have the forearm with the folds, you know, in here. It's just, you can do different things. And once again, the red is on the outside, the blue is on the inside to give it that feel of transparency, but of the 3 dimensions. So just something to take into consideration when you're doing it. Moving on, you know, once again, just doing a leg here. And here you got a quick example of 2D perspective, which I'll go over 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective, respectively, in another video, doing each one individual and then a longer one based off of this. But that is just showing you can create, you know, something very simply like this in 2-point perspective, and you know how to round it off or how to create that. Here is just a foreshortening cylinder, and then, you know, but once again, all you're doing is just creating a squiggle line. Now when you're foreshortening, the best way to do that is to, you know, make it go from thick to narrow. So then you have that, and then all of a sudden you can make it feel like it's foreshortening or getting smaller or further in the distance, and make this feel like it's getting bigger. And all I did here is make it feel more like a tail. So now you have, you know, the tail going, and I'm just wrapping it around. So it's still just one line here, a line here, and then I know that it's going to go around, so it's going to come around there. And that's just from saying, okay, one cylinder's here. You know, I have another cylinder being warped or wrapped around, so how would that look? And then I have another cylinder here, and then a cylinder here. And so if you just break it into different simple shapes, you can create a look and a feel much like this. And once again, I added the red on the outside and the blue on the inside to give that transparent 3D look. I did the same thing with a very basic leg. Obviously the foot's a little long, but I wanted to make it a little longer and a little larger so you could get the feel of how that would wrap around, and how you have the flat up to the rounded, and it goes around to a more rounded and then flat again, and so you get that, you see the kind of twist and curves of the calf to the knee to the thigh muscle, and you just get an overall sense and feel of dimension and shape. And it's all just basically doing that, you know, line and then adding curved lines, or, you know, different things to give the depth to it. Now here you have just basic, you know, a basic cylinder, basic random shape, and then another cylinder. So showing it in different ways. You know, the red is the outside, that, and how just creating different curves and knowing that the basic face and the multitude, a simplified version of the basic face shape with no detail, nothing. And then this would be, if you wanted to create 3D but create, you know, motion or something first, you'd get your dynamic positioning of all the different limbs, and then you would add on to it the 3-dimensional shapes on top of that, and then you would add on to that the actual form in shadow and shade, and you could just create whatever you wanted. So this is just a very basic overview of how to create a flat 2-dimensional object, look 3D, using very basic, simplistic method of doing it. If you want a longer, more in-depth video, just let me know, and I will make one. But this was just a first interlude into how to make 2D into 3D. I am Renaissance Craft. Thank you very much.